me Speed Race. CB Speed Race. Hop in the range. Take off into space.
Hey guys, it's cbgray coming to you guys live with another Destiny video. How are you guys doing today? So today's video, we're going to be making a full guide of Reckoning now that all three tiers are out, and now that I've been able to beat them, I'm going to be coming with all the things that really helped make it easier for my team, and just strategies that we picked up along the way that I'm hoping will help make it a little bit easier for you to finish these activities so you can get some really cool Gambit Prime gear and some other cool weapons as well. So we're going to get right into it. So if you do find this helpful, hit that like button. If you're new, go ahead and subscribe. So let's get right into it. So let's start off talking about some notable subclasses and some notable weapons to use that I noticed did pretty well when we were running it. And I'm going to start off with the subclasses and the classes. So if you run Well of Radiance, this is going to be one that obviously is always a PvE beast, but using Phoenix Protocol is one that really stood out in this encounter, and it really allows you to have Well of Radiance what seems like all the time, and if you have two of them, then it's literally all the time. So Phoenix Protocol is a great exotic to have, and while Zer's here, if you don't have it yet, I do recommend you trying to get it in a faded engram because it really does help make it a lot easier with that. Defender Titans also get a lot of glory in this as well. If you have Helm of Saint 14, blinding bubbles are going to be amazing, and I'll explain that a little bit later, but you are going to want to pick that up too if you do have it. Ursa also will work decent as well if you want to use Middle Tree, but I would definitely recommend a Ward of Dawn and a Helm of Saint 14 and go old school Defender. Also, Orpheus Rig Hunter is going to do amazing because orbs are also just one of those things that you're always going to need, and having everybody fully supered is super important in this, so that will be helpful. And then there's some, I would like to refer to it as offensive supers that I think would also be great for certain parts of Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3, and those are the Hammer Titan, the Nova Bomb Warlock, and you may want to throw Skull of Dire on that just so you can really be regenning that Nova Bomb really quickly. And then Chaos Reach with Warlock Geomag is also going to be a really good one. So now that we have the classes out the way, there's some standout weapons I want to mention too. Full auto shotguns are still amazing. It doesn't matter if they've been nerfed. EP shotgun or any full auto shotgun still is going to work great. Lord of Wolves is getting a whole lot of play in this DLC. That's another one that's pretty good. Telesto, I've heard, is great, and with the Void Burn on your side, I think I can see it being definitely really good at chaining a lot of kills. Jotun is amazing with Solar Burn. Your LMGs are going to be amazing, whether it's Hammerhead, Thunderlord, or Avalanche. I was using a lot of Avalanche today on the opening of Tier 3. With it being Solar Burn, all of the LMGs do amazing, and I'm sure as people are getting 21% Delirium, that's another one that you can add to the list. And the last few things that I want to mention are Sleeper and Thousand Voices. Sleeper is one that the majority of people will have, I'm sure, but Thousand Voices, if you're lucky enough to get your hands on that, that one is amazing when it comes to almost anything in this game right now. It's just in a very, very overpowered place right now, and I think you'll enjoy using it. And then lastly, Black Talon or any other sword sometimes actually is decent as well, just for chaining kills, especially from close range. And so now we're going to get started. I also want to mention, if you don't have any of these, an Arc Strider Hunter would also be good for clearing ads with Radiant Flux. So now let's get into it. So starting off with Tier 1. Tier 1 is 650 recommended, and this one isn't too bad. So you're going to have 6 minutes to essentially clear out a bunch of ads within this space, and it does matchmake, and that's something important that I want to say, is that all of these modes do matchmake, but I do want to say that I don't think that matchmaking is going to be viable for a decent period of time, because it's just people aren't high enough light yet, so I don't think that it's going to be viable yet, so you're really going to want to come in with the team. But so you have 6 minutes like I said, and you need to get your light to 100%, or excuse me, your percentage to 100% as you're killing enemies to move on to the boss fight. So every time you kill an enemy, the percentage is going to move up. Now on the flip side, when you aren't killing enemies, the percentage is going to gradually decrease, so you have a very, very strong incentive to kill enemies fast. So you're going to want a super chain. That's going to be your best friend. Spawning orbs for each other is going to be amazing, and staying close enough to your teammates where you can get quick revives is also going to be important. You're going to want to call out the bigger enemies on the map as you see them, because those are going to naturally give bigger percentages as you kill them, but then also they're going to be harder to kill, so you're going to want some of your teammates around when you are killing these enemies. I want to make sure that you guys are paying attention to the burn each time that it resets, because you're going to want to tailor your weapons to what the burn is, such as if it's void, you may want to use hammerhead, etc, etc. So once you get the percent all the way to 100, you're going to enter into a boss fight that you'll have 2 minutes and 30 seconds to do, and all you're going to have to do is wipe up a final boss. It could be a meatball, it could be a Hydra, a Taken Hydra, it could be a Taken Knight. There's a bunch of different possibilities that it could be. So for this, Melting Point does great to start things off, and then after that you can use really powerful burst damage supers, and what I mean by that is Chaos Reach or Nova Bomb works amazing after you do a Melting Point. And then popping a well in front of the boss also can do amazing, and then you can just full auto shotgun the boss to death. Excuse me. After you're able to beat the boss, that's going to be all there is to tier 1, and you're going to be collecting your loot and get tier 1 Gambit Prime gear as well. So tier 1 is honestly not that bad with coordination and with just following the list of the weapons and the subclasses that I put in and trying to make a composition of a team that does pretty decently with that. Our team, we had 2 wells, 1 defender bubble, or you call it sentinel, but it was a ward of dawn, and then 1 hammer titan. So we had a bunch of defense and then 1 mainly offensive super. So now let's move on to tier 2. So tier 2 is going to be 670 recommended, and this is going to be a little bit harder, so let's go ahead and jump right into it. So the first part of it, you're going to have the same strategy. You're going to be dropped in with 6 minutes, and you're going to do the exact same first encounter again. However, once you get your percentage to 100%, you're not going to be killing a boss. Instead, there's going to be a new bridge encounter where you're going to go into another room and you're going to have to cross a bridge. So when you get to this bridge, you're going to have to capture 6 zones similar to Control, and it captures faster with more people in it naturally. So you have 40 seconds to finish capturing each zone, and then you're going to move forward after you capture each one. Now while you do this, you're going to be faced with different strong yellow bars. It's going to be the same yellow bars in each instance that happens, so it may just be a bunch of knights, it may be a bunch of wizards, it may be a bunch of ogres, or maybe a bunch of phalanxes. It doesn't matter, it'll be one of those. And so a lot of these enemies, especially phalanxes, are going to be trying to boop you off the map, so it's going to be very important that on each one of these zones there is going to be a wall, or just kind of a piece of, I don't even know what to call it, just there's a center part of the zone that you can put your back against, and then if you get booped, you're just gonna hit your back against the wall and you're not gonna go flying. So you're not gonna want to be on the sides of the zone. I like staying right in the middle, so if I get booped, I'm not going anywhere and you're not falling off the cliff. The best thing to do, I think, is to pop either a bubble or to have a well, and either way you're gonna want to have blinding a blinding bubble, so that enemies that are coming in get blinded, especially those thralls. Or if you have a well, use Phoenix Protocol so that you're building your super back really quickly. Excuse me. So next after that, you're gonna want to have at least 1 offensive super that's clearing the ads also, and Orpheus Rig also doesn't help to pop more orbs. You're just gonna want to be clearing the ads as quickly as possible while you have those wells and those bubbles going. There's also going to be sniper hobgoblins on the sides. Now I've noticed that these aren't really a problem if you're in a bubble or if you're in a well, but if you don't have either of these, you're going to want to switch to maybe a scout rifle or a sniper so that you can take out the hobgoblins that are on the sides. When enemies come into the wells and the bubbles, machine guns and swords honestly work great. Full auto shotguns also work amazing just for getting those enemies out of the wells and bubbles super quickly. Now also giving callouts are really important for telling your teammates when the yellow bars are spawning so that you can kill them faster, because the faster you kill them, the least likely they are to actually boop you off the map. So once you capture all 6 zones, you're going to be teleported into a room where you're going to be tasked with killing 2 knights that are immune at first. You're going to have 4 minutes and 30 seconds to kill both of these knights. So I bet you're wondering how we're going to actually kill them. So you're going to get a buff to kill them by killing a marked glowing enemy that will be shown after a few seconds of you spawning in. Once you kill him, he's going to drop a buff exactly like the buff in Gambit Prime, and inside of that you're going to be able to damage the knights. Now at first they're going to be pretty far away, and that's when you're really going to want to DPS the ads really good, or excuse me, the boss really good. But once they get close to the buff, if you're not in a super, I would suggest you run away, because one swipe and a lot of times you're actually dead, and it's really annoying. So the only suggestion I would have is, if you have an offensive super, you can stay in even when the knights come and you can keep continuing to do damage. But if you're not in a super that's in a position to do a good amount of offensive damage, you're gonna want to get out and essentially reset the DPS cycle, kill the next ad, drop the buff again, and rinse and repeat until you're able to kill both of the knights. Now, if you have some of your teammates die, sometimes we would wait and let everybody respawn outside before we come back in, just so that we're not all just every 2 seconds all coming in at different times and different people are dying, and we never collectively have everybody inside at one point. So that really helped us. Lastly, you're going to want to make sure that you don't go stand in the black purple poison, because it'll make you move slower and you'll lose health. And yeah, that's going to be it for tier 2 Reckoning. If you do all these things and you make sure that you're careful about not jumping in the poison and doing very fast DPS when you first drop the ad with the debuff, you're gonna do an amazing job at this. I have no doubt in my mind that you're gonna be able to beat this. Now lastly, we're gonna move on to tier 3 Reckoning. So this is 690 recommended, and I believe you can't even get into it if you're not 680. So this is where I recommend you checking out my power leveling guide if you're not at least at 680 yet, to kind of see my methods for getting to 690 and above. I came into this at 693, I believe, when I did this today. Now it's probably going to be yesterday, but you get the point. So when I did this, it's the same strategy for the first part, only you have 5 minutes instead of 6 for the tier 1 portion, and then it's going to be the same strategy on the bridge, only instead of 40 seconds you're going to have 35 seconds. So the only thing that's going to change in the first 2 tiers is just the sense of urgency. And then lastly, after you beat the bridge, you're gonna fight the boss, which is the likeness of Oryx. And so this is really cool because the Oryx music is gonna return, which is super awesome. Wells and Bubbles are still gonna be your best friend, and Oryx is gonna be doing a ritual every so often while you're DPSing him. That's called the Counterfeit Gaze. That's gonna chunk your health if you're not doing enough damage to him when he does it. It's just gonna look like he's conjuring, so just make sure you're doing consistent damage to him and it won't be a problem. Lastly, you can DPS him from long range within your well, and then when he comes to closer ranges, you can also pop a well right next to him, and you can use EP shotguns or whatever to really chunk his health super fast. We found that that worked really well. Also, you're gonna have ogres that spawn a lot, which is gonna be really annoying. When you see ogres, make sure you call them out and kill them ASAP, or they're just gonna wreak havoc and it's gonna be terrible. And yeah, if you keep track of ogre control and you're doing consistent damage to Oryx, you will beat him, and that's going to be the end of tier 3. So these are the tips that I can suggest for you guys to make things easier. Now granted, I know that finding a team is not easy, and I know getting the right team composition can be a challenge. So this isn't me belittling it. I know that this is a lot of work to make this actually happen. But in the chance that you are able to actually get your team together and you are able to get some of these subclasses, I would just rather you know exactly what I did to make it work, rather than having to struggle to put together a team and then struggle to also put together a strategy. At least with this, you have a strategy in front of you that hopefully will be able to help you get this done. One last thing to mention too is that tier 2, I don't know if it was a glitch or if it just rotates, but right now tier 2 is also the likeness of Oryx, so it's not the knight encounter. So go ahead and use tier 3 strategy for tier 2 if it's still the likeness of Oryx for tier 2 for this week. Last week it was the knight encounter, so I'm not sure if it's going to be rotating, but if tier 2's ever the knights, make sure to use the knight strategy. If it's the likeness of Oryx, use the likeness of Oryx strategy, and if tier 3 ever becomes the knight encounter, flip that around as well. I don't know what rotates and what doesn't, but this is just the stuff I have for the encounters that we've seen so far. So hopefully this was helpful, guys. I know it was a mouthful and I know it was a lot to digest, but I just really hope that this is able to make things a little bit easier. So if you did enjoy this video, definitely, like I said again, hit that like button, subscribe if you're new. We'd love to have you. Can't wait to have a conversation with you guys in the comment box below. And with that, I'm gonna talk to you guys in the next Destiny video. Thanks, I love you guys.
Destructive dish just like I'm Krillin, yeah. I'm presidential like I'm Reagan, yeah. I'm outer space, it's Armageddon, yeah. and take a ship above the heavens.